There's always going to be bigger predators out there. I think this is what we all do. It's like, you feel like you can't help yourself. You can't get out of your own way. You feel this or that. And then you finally figure out a way, right? So then you tend to want to offer that advice towards others, right? So they don't have to go through the same suffering. Yeah, we've talked about that in depth as well, because you could be robbing them of a beautiful life experience that can only be learned through experience. But it's what's going to win. Do you love yourself enough? That is, to me, the ultimate test down here. How much do you love yourself? Or are you going to love someone else more than you, which means you are going to sacrifice you for them? Are you going to sacrifice your alignment for them? Or are you going to sacrifice your alignment when people tell you you're a prick if you don't? You're an asshole if you don't. You're arrogant if you don't. You're obnoxious if you don't give up your life for me. How could you, you obnoxious prick, for not giving up your alignment for me? Is what they're really saying, but they don't hear it that way. When you're not doing what they want, you're an asshole, right? And so some people, that is all it takes to get them off their alignment. Well, shit, I don't want to be an asshole. I want to be seen as the good guy. This is why it takes a lot of leaders to have really thick skin and true alignment, and to move in that alignment despite the tremendous amount of naysayers, because as a leader, you will never have everybody agreeing with you. It's not how the world works, and leaders are well aware of this and are not getting swayed and pushed all over the place for likes, for approval, for this or that. They know they're there to provide, to protect, and to steer for the greater good. And if they're in alignment, they're able to do that despite the tremendous amount of backlash they will always receive. It's just part of the reality of that world, of that dynamic. And there is always somebody bigger that has gone up the ranks or inherited the ranks, or many reasons, but nonetheless, they are bigger. In other words, a lion's born a lion. So he inherited that power. He inherited that right. Yeah, he's a lion. So is a bunny going to bitch about it? Is a bunny going to be like, well, you fucking inherited being a lion. I was born a bunny. Yeah, that's right, and I eat you. That's what it is, right? It's like, it's the reality that we don't always like to hear, especially if we're the bunnies, right? And this is why the best thing you can offer yourself is to be in your alignment and love yourself and appreciate the fact that you're a bunny, and love and be the best bunny you can be. And then you'll feel happy and proud of yourself. But if you're competing with a lion, you're always going to be disappointed. You're always going to think poorly of yourself. But every other bunny out there is like, God damn, why can't that bunny see how spectacular that bunny is? Well, because the bunny's comparing himself to a lion. So he's always going to be miserable. He's always going to feel, it's like we can't appreciate who we are, or our skill set, or our talents, because we can't always see them because we're looking outwardly. But if you can see it that way, sometimes it helps clear things up, doesn't it? And then you're like, oh, well, that's all I ever really wanted anyway, was to feel great in me. So when you start to accept you and play full out for you, not for a lion, not to compete with a lion, but for you and how it feels best for you, all of a sudden you feel fantastic. That's all I had to do. That's all you had to do. How about it? How about it? We're just silly like that. We get trapped on the exterior. Anyway, so this wasn't even the point. What were you showing me? You were showing me there's always... It's like the circle of life. There's always someone bigger. And it can be disheartening. They were showing it in all types of ways, but here's one simple way they were showing me. It's like you'll have somebody who puts their heart and soul into, say, a clothing line, right? They're a designer. That's what they do. And they sell locally. And they're just, I'm thinking of one in particular that I just love. And they're spectacular. Of course, they're in Italy. It's in Italian. But I didn't find them until I traveled to that town, and they've been around forever and ever and ever, and they're really spectacular. And I was like, well, at first I thought, oh, well, they're copying off of da-da-da-da-da-da-da, but then when you look into it and you realize it and so on and so forth, no. It's like somebody took their idea and had more influence, had more power, name, weight behind them. And instead of supporting that designer and putting their name and weight behind that designer to make that designer who worked so hard to make it what it was, because they poured their heart and soul into it, and recommending this person so that they can get more people coming to buy their products, they instead decide to just steal the idea and to make their own cheaper, and actually usually not, and what I'm referencing, not so much actually more expensive, but because of their name and the weight behind their name, they're able to have that 10 times the price on their stuff and have mass production and sell it all over the world. And they get credit for a wonderful design that they never even came up with. And that is the circle of life. That's what often happens. And they can justify it in a way that they're like, yeah, that's right, I do have the ability to do that. They don't. And they might never know, and what does it matter? They're happy with what they have. Or maybe they weren't. Maybe they've always been struggling and you just came and took that from underneath them. In other words, we can spin it 25 different ways because that's what we do as humans. And this is why comparing and competing can also get us into traps. Meaning maybe that person would never know, and they'd be happy with the business that they're doing and live a very happy life and never be the wiser, and that's that. But if they became the wiser, maybe it would chip away at their heart and their soul. Maybe they would feel bad about themselves that they didn't do anything about it or compete or many, many, many things. And or maybe we could say the person who stole it. Well, I mean, I think anytime we steal, that's going to be our own karma, our own backlash. And so, I mean, these are all the dynamics that are happening all the time, and all the traps that we can fall into, and all the things that we can spend our energy worrying about or fussing about, or we can just love ourselves and do our best and continue to strive to be a better version of us each day and dream bigger, right? As we chip away at the layers of confusion or wrong beliefs or limiting beliefs or stuckness or stickiness and get to the core of us, we can get clearer on what that is. Yeah, they keep showing, I forget what the name of it is, but hi-ho, the 7 dwarfs, right? Isn't it funny, the 7 dwarfs, as they go off to chip away in the diamond mine to get to all the diamonds, they have to do the work, right? And the 7 chakras, it's like all these, it's all from the Bible, all of it is. All of his movies were, and all of his movies perpetuated that, which people could say is good and people could say is bad, right? Some people could look at it as, the storyline they came up with to feed humanity, and humanity has lived on that storybook that something outside of you is going to come save you. They could look at that as evil and a rotten plan that profited many organizations, religions, companies, because they were able to steer the narrative to the masses to wait for something outside of them to save them, and for them not to love and honor themselves, have their direct connection and save themselves. And so others who follow it to a T and literally could be like, oh, it's perfect. It's exactly what we want to continue repeating throughout the world and throughout history, even though they're living in lack and suffering and in pain. But they think that's good because maybe one day that will change by some poof or miracle out of thin air. And it's like, no, it'll never change until you change within, until you align within, until you love yourself within and save yourself and get your direct connection to unconditional love. Right now, your direct connection is to the devil that's suppressing you and keeping you bound and stuck and tight, believing in something that isn't true. It's the lowest vibration, believing in fear, believing in suffering, believing in pain, keeping you bound and stuck. And so this is what humans do. They spin it any which way to benefit themselves. But you have to learn to do that for yourself and stop tuning to all those outside yourself who are so confused and being drug all over the place as well, and tuning to all those different storylines. And many believe it with all their heart and soul, but they're believing it from a lower vibration, not from the highest vibration. So it's also earth-shattering when their ego gets smashed and they get up-leveled to a new level and have to leave that past behind. It's a hard transition. But that's what happens every time you up-level, every time you see more clearly, every time, Sometimes it doesn't have to be challenging. Sometimes it just is. I guess it depends on how firm you got on that level, how big your ego got on that level. If you're able to release it, smash it, and move up to the next level, or if your ego gets so big, it gets stuck and capped at that ceiling, and then you can't ever get above because your ego's blocking you. So you have to be willing to release your ego. You have to be willing to, it's like, take accountability, admit you were wrong, see that you were seeing it incorrectly. And it can hurt in the heart too, right? Because you might have been doing it earnestly. And then you realize it was the wrong thing you were doing earnestly, and you were steering everybody to the devil, but you really thought you were helping. You really thought it was right, right? So it's all these things that we all encounter as humans, and we all have made numerous decisions when we've come to those crossways, right? When we've come to those paths. Many times people don't even realize they come to those paths. They don't even recognize it or acknowledge it. And they just keep on automatic pilot doing what they're doing, stuck in the same cycle at the same level forevermore, until somebody comes along and breaks that pattern, busts through that illusion, breaks that curse. This is the generational curse, the bloodline, all these things. But, okay, I feel like I'm competing with the next door construction again. Thanks so much for tuning in and listening. You can now purchase an audio journey with me using the link below.